Hello everyone, this is Victor Lund. Welcome to today's webinar. We're going to start the recording in just a second here. We'll just wait for 3 seconds and then we'll begin the recording. Very good. Well, thank you everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We're going to learn about This Old House. They've created a new real estate network whose objective is to allow real estate brokers to be able to publish really engaging video content that's created by This Old House network on your website. And we're really excited about this because the proposition that's been developed here doesn't cost the brokerage firm any money, but it really allows them to gain access to some really great content. So just as we get started here, I just want to introduce myself. So we'll ask to go to the next slide. April, thank you. So I'm Victor Lund. I run Wave Group and RE Technology. They're two companies in the real estate industry. Wave Group works a lot with real estate brokerage firms with some 500 agents and above, and a lot of MLSs and large boards of realtors, as well as some of the technology companies that serve them. RE Technology is a publishing company. We publish an online daily newsletter as well as a website that allows real estate agents and brokers to gain information about the technology solutions that are available to power your business. So it's from that centered place that we want to invite you to join today's webinar. We think that the ability to differentiate your website by creating engaging content is a really unique opportunity in real estate. It started a long time ago, back in, I don't know, around 2006, when real estate brokers really began to reimagine how they could use their website not only as a place to find listings, but as a place to find other engaging content that would help the consumer through the journey of buying or selling property. And a lot of that was the evolution of blogging, where brokerage firms would create article content that kind of created a steady cadence of information that would invite people to come back on a regular basis. It emerged recently, probably through the great expansion of Realtor.com, Truly, and Zillow, and Homes.com, where we recognized that community landing pages that really talked about what it's like to live in a neighborhood or live in a town and what's going on became something that was very intriguing and beneficial to real estate brokers, because we saw that people were coming there to read that content. It was great content for social media. They spent more time on site. And they really began to tell a story that went beyond bedrooms, bathrooms, and price. So, you know, as we looked at the websites that we track, which are mostly websites of the top 200 brokers, what we began to see is that as these new content strategies emerged, their websites started to lift and track above competitors in the marketplace. So, you know, the reporting function of being able to look at a strategy on the back end is a really important way to guide and measure the development of your effectiveness online. So we were very excited to see that this stuff was working. Brad Inman was kind of a pioneer back, I guess, in around 2010 with doing video on broker websites. And I think that the introduction of video at that time may have been a little difficult to do, but nevertheless, they had a pretty solid launch. And their thesis was to come and really look at the people, the places, and the spaces of real estate. So the people was the ability to come in and have somebody really create a profile of your brokerage on a video, and that video would be published on your website. And it's interesting, that theme has been picked up a little bit by Zillow, and I know that you can recognize that if you're a brokerage company with an agreement with Zillow, you can have a small video appear on all your listings. So it's certainly something you want to take advantage of. As we move away from people and we look at places, those are community videos, which really explain what's happening around the community and what makes it such an enjoyable place to live. And then the spaces part is sort of the category of virtual tours, but taken more to an editorial level, so that if you're going to film a home, tell the story about that home, tell the background, who was the builder, what else, you know, what did somebody exciting live there, or whatever. So when we think of people, places, and spaces as the first strategy for video, we saw something that was really dynamic and really engaging that people were certainly proud of. The flip side of it was the cost. So to have a custom video done in the marketplace at the time or even today will often cost on a low end $1,000, the kind of production that that we would see in the higher end could go as high as 10 or 12,000. So for most brokerage companies, if you wanted to profile a community and you were covering a lot of communities, you'd be looking at some very significant budget. And we have recognized that the companies that have done that have done really well with that. For the most part, these videos are produced in a way that makes them last a lifetime, so you don't have to redo them every year. So as we've watched this trend develop, we'll just go to the next slide, please. As we've watched this trend develop, I've spent a lot of time talking with my friend Prem Luther about the experience that he's had over the many years working with some of the largest online publishers. And I'm really excited to introduce Prem today because he's really rethinking and reimagining how video can be used on a broker website effectively. So with that, Prem, can we hear you?
Yeah, Victor, can you hear me?
I do. Welcome.
Fantastic. Well, it's an honor to be here, Victor, and thanks to our audience who's taken the time out of their busy schedules to be here on our webinar today. I think based on the screen that you're seeing here with my background, you can see that I've got a couple of decades here in the real estate technology and media space, spanning from having participated in the build and launch of large national portal sites, including Realtor.com, Cyberhomes, and most recently Zome. But I've also had the opportunity as a vendor in providing franchisor and large broker websites, as well as MLSs that have consumer-facing websites. And so that experience and what Victor's asked me to kind of set up here is, some observations of some trends and some opportunities that I think we as real estate vendors and practitioners can absolutely tap into by working with really solid partners. And we're going to be talking about one of those partners here pretty soon. But before I get into sort of my observations of 20 plus years of watching consumers interact with real estate content online, I just thought that I would take a couple of minutes here to describe kind of the evolution of, consumer-facing real estate search websites. As many of you know that are on this call, many of you were part of this industry back in the day. IDX and real estate search really started back in the mid to late 90s. Kind of started with the advent of Realtor.com, but then with certain data rules passed by the NAR and MLSs, IDX became a popular source of MLS listing content that was able to be sort of plugged into a kind of a brochure page or a real estate website. And so back in the late 90s, there were probably less than 10,000 websites that have had some form of real estate search on them. If you fast forward and to further what Victor was sharing with you, in 2006, there were well over 600,000 websites, again with some form of real estate search. And now you fast forward to 2017, and there are more than 1 million websites out there that have some form of listing search on them. Now, we're not going to debate whether, website A is better than website B from a search perspective, but we're here to discuss with you for a few minutes kind of the content value, starting kind of with the consumer experience, and then working our way backwards into kind of, what we can be doing as an industry to better serve the content needs of the consumers. It goes without saying that, real estate search websites are needed. We've all heard the data about, where consumers begin their search. It's obviously online. Increasingly more so, it's done on mobile devices. And it's a fantastic way to engage with, quote unquote, the in-market consumer, are the ones that, our real estate practitioners, our realtors, are most interested in sort of interacting with, and those are the in-market consumers, those consumers that intend to buy and sell within within the near future, let's say. It's also a great way for, brokers and or MLSs that have a consumer-facing experience to leverage their brand within a local community and a way for them to extend brand. And then obviously, most importantly, it's a way to capture consumer intent in the form of what we call leads and distribute them to the practitioners that can better service the needs of those consumers that are raising his or her hand, or what I like to say, crossing the anonymity barrier, looking for specific information about a property or neighborhood or other real estate related needs. Now, one of the things that I, along the way had the opportunity to do along the way is a bunch of market research. And as you'd expect, consumer need around, content found online has evolved, particularly as the options have grown more diverse. But then also just the maturation of, sort of consumer needs as it relates to online behavior. And I like to typically sort of point to some data and a discrepancy that I've been noticing now for 10 plus years, and that is there's a third-party reporting service out there called ComScore. And recently ComScore reported that there were over 100 million monthly unique visitors within the real estate category. Now that seems like a very large number given the fact that the population of the United States is 350 million. So you'd say, wow, about a third of everyone in the United States is looking to buy or sell real estate. Well, that data point married against the fact that on any given month there are about 500,000 real estate transactions that occur. So the discrepancy between the big headline number of over 100 million and 500,000 seems very large to me, and it has been for a long time. And so you start to ask yourself, what are these consumers doing online, and what are they doing with respect to their consumption of real estate related content? Well, there's a research study that I did about 7-8 years ago where we started to, we shipped out online research in the form of a survey. We conducted focus groups across the country, and one of the things that was very interesting that emanated from that research study was the fact that the way that consumers interact with real estate related content, and listings being one form of content, but one of the things that sort of came out of that was the fact that consumers were basically looking at content that best identified where they were in the buy, sell, or stay. And what I consider to be stay, these are people not actively buying or selling, but they're living or they're staying, and the type of content that was most important to them. And then we tried to create some personas out of these individuals. And so clearly, some of the people that we spent time doing research with were active buyers and sellers. And those are the consumers that, I believe that most of the audience listening in today would love to be dealing with. You'd like to find that buyer or seller that's ready to do something, within some short period of time. There was another segment or persona that we created, which we called the home enthusiasts. Now, these are people that are going on real estate search websites, whether it be a national portal, local broker website, agent website, or the MLS that has a consumer-facing website. And these people just like looking at home-related, they like looking at pictures. They like looking at properties for sale. They like to see, kind of design and improvement sort of, ideas or generate ideas from looking at this stuff. There was another persona that consumer category that we created, and these were what we call the financially motivated individuals. These are the folks that were either professional investors or self-identified with being financially inclined, and so they're looking obviously at things like home values or a way to gauge what their equity positions are or have been. They're trying to identify sort of trends in the marketplace based on buy and sell data. And then you also had another category of consumer that we built a persona around, and this is the largest expression of self. Now, these are the people that, their home is their castle, and they want their property to really sort of express who they are as an individual. Now, if you take those 4 or 5 sort of personas that I just described to you, and you start to think through programming, a real estate website so that you have content that addresses their needs. And again, these are more so than just people that are actively buying and selling. Although, the 7 years that spans in between a buy-sell event, people are staying and they're still looking at these real estate search websites. So what can we be doing as an industry to better address some of the needs that they have, so that they don't have to go search, other websites, that they find relevant? That we as an industry can sort of extend or expand, rather, the depth and breadth of the content that we offer up to the consumer, aside and apart from IDX search or listing search. So as the title of this webinar adequately, or accurately rather, kind of illustrates, it's all about the content. And why do we want to improve or expand the content that are on our website? Well, number A, the people that we are attracting to our sites today, and by the way, I know many of you that are participating are spending a lot of money marketing yourselves, whether it be in traditional media or online, and what it costs to attract or acquire a new visitor to your website is very high. So an output of that exercise, in my opinion, needs to be, how can you keep that consumer around for longer periods of time? Or how can you entice them to come back multiple times within a given period of time? And so the first thing that I was describing to you, how can you improve session time, is something related to improving consumer engagement. What can we be offering up to the consumer, content related, that'll keep them around an extra minute, an extra 2 minutes, an extra 3 minutes? I can tell you that there is a direct correlation to the amount of time that a consumer spends on your website and to when they cross the anonymity barrier or ultimately become a lead for you. So the goal for us is, how do we keep consumers around for longer periods of time? How do we improve repeat visits? Now this goes to a couple different things, but most importantly related to content, it goes to them finding content that they find to be different or real time. Now, obviously, listings, you could argue, are real time, in that there are new properties that come on and off the market all the time, and so that should be a sort of one hook to get consumers to come back multiple times. But I'll tell you that sort of experience is found on multiple websites, and so I would suggest to you that you want to find ways to diversify the content in your site, so that the consumer believes that, quote unquote, the real-time content is changing, and there's an excuse or a reason for them to come back to your site. And then I'd also say, and this is specific to, I know many of you participating today, if we have spent a lot of money attracting people to come to our site, and we're working really hard to keep them around for an extended amount of time, and maybe even give them an excuse to come back multiple times, and they ultimately turn into a buy-sell lead, what sort of relevance does my site have to the consumer that's staying? And this is in between the buy-sell transactional events and the living events. This is what I would consider to be customer retention. So somebody's worked with one of your realtors, somebody's worked with one of your members, and now you want to find a way to kind of entice that consumer to stick around with you in between the transactional events. And again, I would suggest to you that it's the depth and breadth of the content on your site that could be an incentive for you to retain more of your clients. How does all of this kind of information, and I know I've kind of done an information overload to you, how does this all relate to our content today? Well, one of the things that, and as Victor addressed in his opening presentation, is that to develop content is either time-consuming or in some cases it's expensive. And I believe that one of the ways that we as the industry can better sort of serve the consumer need is by partnering with third parties that have, a lot of relevant content that's engaging, and hopefully have a brand that we can leverage to boot that'll give my site or your websites more credibility. And one of the companies that is doing that is This Old House. And as many of you on this call, you know about This Old House, or like myself, you grew up watching This Old House segments on public television. It's a brand that is well established and produces some of the best content available to consumers. Well, the good news for us coming from the industry perspective is that This Old House is interested in partnering with our industry. And what I'd like to do now is I'd like to turn the presentation over to the Chief Executive Officer of This Old House, Eric Thorkelson, who will tell you a little bit more about how they are partnering with the real estate industry. Eric?
Thank you, Prem, and thank you all for dialing in today. It's really a pleasure for me to speak about this brand. I used to, back as a first-time homeowner, even pre-first-time homeowner, I used to plan my weekends around when This Old House was on. So for me to, years later, be in a position where I get to work with this amazing brand, it's a real pleasure for me. But I'm happy to share briefly here today a little bit of information about it and the history. Suffice it to say, if it's all about content, I'm talking to you about the brand that invented home improvement television back in 1979. It actually was a house then that the public television station that owned the brand and created it purchased, believing that the storyline was one that homeowners would find engaging, that if they buy a house, what could their vision, their dream for that house become? And over the course of 13 episodes in that very first season, this sort of, at the time, novel idea took the viewers through the process of what was a pretty sad-looking Victorian wreck in Dorchester, Massachusetts, and turned it into a home that was sold to a very happy new set of homeowners. And that process over the years since has evolved into one where this brand reaches over 30 million consumers a month through television, on public television, syndicated television, a very large 4 million plus monthly user digital audience, and a 8-time-a-year, 800,000 circulation magazine. But the core of it, and it's sort of related in our positioning line, you may see on the screen there, build your dream, do it right, is I would imagine the customers that you deal with as they walk through a house that they are envisioning they might buy, or if they're on the sell side and looking at what it is that they've lived in and how they might better prepare it for sale, is that we're in the business of helping them do that. And what I think distinguishes this brand from others that have followed us into the space is that we are very much about we're in the do-it-right business. We make a real point of making sure that the information that we convey and the ideas that we provide are relevant, time-tested, and ones that, as I like to say about us, give the consumer a good outcome. We try to be very much in the good outcome business, which makes for happy customers, and certainly I would think from your point of view with your customers that a happy customer coming in becomes a customer down the line that becomes a longer-term relationship for you. So for us, why seek to partner with real estate professionals? It's really pretty simple and straightforward. There is no more avid consumer for us than someone who is in that process of envisioning and beginning to plan for the sale of a home and or the purchase of a new one. All of the ideas and needs that go into that period of time, preparing the home for sale, and the smart decisions to make about what can be improved and what can be spruced up to make the value as best it can be. And then once the new home is purchased and the homeowners move in, is what are the immediate needs that need to be identified and pursued. But even more important, and this comes from the research that we do, anywhere from 12 to 14, 16 months later, is the building of your dream, is what more major renovation can take place. And I'm sure as you walk through homes with your customers, there's a fair amount of hand waving and envisioning that goes on. We see it all the time with the homeowners we work with. And what we try to do with our content is help them realize what that hand waving can be about and how those dreams can be realized. But we do it with real substantial, solid information. We do it with a cast of talent that are truly on a first name basis with the audience. The guys on our show have been with the brand, with one exception, from the very beginning, over 37 years. This audience knows them, they believe in them. The wish we hear all the time from consumers is, how do I get them to come to my house? And we try to do that virtually through all our different media, and with some of our brands we do it in an actual basis. But what it means is it's a very authentic kind of connection that we have with the audience. And our belief is that if we share that content, especially in the environments, the digital environments that you have, that we can enhance that connection that you have. Prem was speaking about time spent on site and repeat visits. We see in our digital efforts that the more relevant the content is that we share, especially these days, video content, the more times that consumers come back and spend time with us. We want to do the same with any of you who wish to partner with us. It's good business for us. We think it's going to be good business for you. One final question, in April, if you go to that next slide, the one after, no, other direction. There you go, is that there are so many, especially with HGTV, so many shows these days that are out there that are in this space, but it's worth bragging about here that when you look at the rating, and the rating that's on the screen now is for This Old House. We have a companion show, Ask This Old House, that does about the same rating. But that rating is more than double what the next highest home improvement show does from HGTV. And I say that having worked at that company for a couple of years and having good friends there. In fact, I met Prem there way back when. But it gives you a sense of just how strongly and in what regard this brand is held by the audience. And I think that beyond that, just in the last year, we won the Emmy for the Best Lifestyle program, the 18th Emmy that the brand has won over the years. But what I think is significant is that for something that started 37, 38 years ago, to still be recognized as the best in the category as we were in 2016 really speaks to the quality of the content and the kind of relationship it has with the audience. I think that's a good enough overview for me. I'm sure there may be questions later that I can help answer, but let me turn it over now to April.
Yeah, this is Victor. You know, you did I really appreciate it. Prem, could you just kind of lay out how Elm Street got to this point and how you guys put this together and why you think it makes sense for real estate today?
Sure. So Elm Street Technology is my latest sort of startup, if you will. Started about a year ago. And what we're doing is we're out in the marketplace acquiring technology and marketing service providers in the real estate space, and we're looking for, well-established companies that have been out there, for a minimum of 5 years, if not longer. One of the first companies that we acquired last year was a website provider up in New England called RLS 2000. They've been providing, websites as well as social marketing tools to realtors since 2000. So very well established up in New England. Well, one of the things that I recognized as I was doing the diligence on the company is that the websites that we were selling to brokers, teams, and agents, while the company took a lot of pride in them, they were fundamentally no different than any other vendor offering up the same thing. And so as you'd expect, our sales team was constantly sort of fighting the feature benefit type of, objections. And so what we wanted to do was we wanted to basically transform the way that we position these websites in the marketplace. And that's when I reached out to Eric and I said, hey, a lot of the stuff that you and I were talking about, 10, 15 years ago, I'd like to implement that now. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to take our website platform and embed your content in it so that the people that we are presenting, our solution to, there really is no sort of, second best. We're the only ones sort of out there taking that approach. So we embedded the content, or integrated rather, the content into that website platform. We're soon going to be doing that on a national scale, but we started sort of the experiment out up in New England. We've had the content implemented now for about 2 or 3 months, but I can tell you that the feedback that we're getting from the marketplace, the demand, if you will, is pretty phenomenal. I think it doesn't take a rocket scientist to recognize that, to have a brand like This Old House cohabitating on my personal or company website is an advantage. And then also some of this just really rich and engaging content that they have is also a major advantage. And so we're already seeing session times improve, not by the seconds, but by the minutes. And so that's the opportunity that all of you on today's webinar have the opportunity of integrating into your content experience. And with that, I'll turn it over to April.
So April is going to talk about, like if you're a real estate broker, it doesn't really matter whose website platform you're on. If you're interested in leveraging the This Old House content, you may do so. And April's going to show you like all the information about the library and how it can be integrated and how to get started. So April, welcome. Good to see your smiling face there.
Thanks, Victor. So before I kind of dive into the content piece of it, I wanted to take a minute and kind of go through a little bit of my background. I also, specifically within the real estate career, started at Realtor.com about 16 years ago. Kind of moved my way up the ladder, starting as a media planner, working with some strategic portals such as Yahoo, MSN, and AOL, but specific within their real estate channel. But most recently, I helped build a real estate ad network where we basically pulled together about 2,500 sites at one time and placed ads on them and brought them different types of advertising partnerships. But one thing that they all kind of told me, I think collectively, that the 2,500 website brought about 400 clients that we had that I worked with for 10 years. And we were always trying to find something that would help, obviously with non-dues revenue, advertising helps with that, but help from stickiness perspective, right? To keep the people on the website, having them be a little bit more engaged and have these, whether it's an agent, broker, or MLS site, just engage with the users and keep them longer and be more of a real estate lifecycle resource rather than just a listing website. So we are, within This Old House, we have created a new brand called the Real Estate Ad Network, and we're primarily focusing on more of a need for content and things that will not only benefit you as a company, but be more robust to benefit your clients as well. So I'm going to dive into the different types of content that we provide. I like to look at it as the whole life cycle. We've got content that talks about, everything from kind of A to Z. So whether you're trying to figure out how to stage your home for sale, or you need some moving tips or some moving related content, we've got that as well. Then moving on to, let's say you're downsizing, right? You came from a big family, the kids are now moved off to college and you want to downsize. How do you kind of go about decorating in smaller spaces? To, again, you're ready to sell. So we've got lots of content that will help your either buyer or seller in any stage that they've got. So here's a couple examples of that. And then this here, so article related content is great, right? People like to read about that as well. But to Victor's point earlier, while video was kind of a hard thing to push out into the industry, 8, 10 years ago, it's kind of all the rage now. People are an instant gratification audience out there. They don't want to spend the time, maybe sometimes reading a whole article. They just want a quick video that shows them, how to hire a contractor, or a lot of the rave now is the do-it-yourself install your security systems. We've got that as well. So now the next couple of slides, I'm going to go through and show you some examples of how this can be integrated onto your website. This screenshot here, let's say you were Pacific Union, and you were to add the HGTV kind of home and garden section to the top navigation of your site. Very easy to do from a technology standpoint. We at This Old House know that sometimes it can be difficult installing things on your website, or asking your third-party vendor to do a lot of heavy lifting that could potentially cost you a lot of money. So our technology team has taken it upon themselves to make sure that we do all of the heavy lifting, and that whatever we ask you or you're interested in placing on your website, it's going to be a very easy kind of one-day thing that your technology team can do. And we've got resources to kind of help that setup as well. But I like this example here. This is something that's currently available now, where the user would click on that channel and they would be brought to a bunch of different videos. And what I love about this is that it's dynamic to what the user does and how they engage with the page. So I'll give an example. If I click on a video that's, let's say it's just garden related, and I watch a 2-minute video, and then I go and find another one that happens to be garden related, and it's within that same kind of time frame, this page will start to dynamically change and understand what it is that I'm interested in. And it won't show me something like a 10-minute video on repairing my kitchen, right? Because that's not what I'm interested in because of my behavior. So this is something that's I think going to be very beneficial to your users, help keep them engaged. And then really, I've watched a couple of videos on Pacific Union. I'm kind of already connected to this brand. If I've got any other, resource-related questions, I'm probably going to go back to Pacific Union instead of Googling some random video when they've already kind of captured my interest. So I love this this integration. This one's probably my favorite one. Another one that's easy to integrate right on the listing details page as well, that we've done on quite a few websites across the United States now, is this kind of 300 by 600 widget, where it'll start to play a video without the sound playing, but it'll engage the user to let them know if they want to hear it. They can hover over it and click on it and it'll play. And then we've got some content-related articles below. So I think this is a great one because it's easy to fit on the page. It's extremely relevant. But with working with so many sites like Pacific Union, we are very sensitive to how this is displayed. So, for example, going back to what I mentioned, this is not something that's just going to autoplay and disrupt the user's experience on your website. We make sure that we're very sensitive to that. Another integration with what Prem was mentioning on the RLS sites, the good thing about our team is that we're very dynamic and we like to keep things fresh, and so we like to experiment with different ways that we lay out the content. So I would say, after all is said and done, if you're interested, my contact information will be at the end. But don't hesitate to come to me and say, hey, April, I really would prefer the content displayed in X, Y, and Z fashion. If it's something that we can mock up and you like, and it kind of works with our back-end technology, then we have no problem creating different customized ways that the content can be shown. We know that every site is has different templates and whatnot to fit this, but we thought this was a pretty cool experience. It happens to be on the homepage. When a user clicks on one of these articles, it actually expands out and does kind of a page overlay where they can read the article or listen to the video, X out of it, and they're still on their website. A big thing with working in this industry for so long is we do understand what it is that you want and what it is that you don't want, and we recognize that we don't want to put content on your site that's going to take users away from you. We want to keep them engaged with your site. That's something we make sure that we embed in the technology. And then lastly, this old house has been around for a long time. A lot of us have heard of it. I have. I used to love watching the shows and still do. And they've been around a long time in television, a long time within editorial and magazines. And they bring a lot of very well-known large brands to the table. And when this idea was first kind of brought to this old house a while back about, coming into the real estate space a little bit more, it piqued the interest of their advertisers, obviously, right? Because there's statistics out there. I know me personally, when we moved from one state to another, buying a new house, the first thing that I was going to do was maybe change the paint color or, do a little bit of yard work. You spend a certain amount of money at Home Depot. They know that, so they want to be in front of you. So they got very excited about us extending that content relationship with you, and are also interested in bringing you non-dues revenue to advertise on your websites as well. So if that's something that you're interested in, I would say please let me know. Okay, now I'm going to open it up to, yep.
So if you could go back one slide.
Yeah.
So if I understand you correctly, so part of the program is that you will see like a Home Depot or Sherwin-Williams or a Target or a Viking ad that's in the pre-roll of the video, but you also have the opportunity to put banner ads on your site should you choose to, but you don't have to. Is that correct?
Correct. That's correct.
Okay. All right, good. No, it's really great because I know a lot of times when we've looked at ad networks in the past, the actual money that would go to the broker from displaying advertising on their website was good, but it wasn't great. And it looks to me like you guys have kind of solved for that a little bit. Are the CPM rates higher for this type of advertising because you have an agreement through this old house with the advertiser, or are they basically the same?
Yep. No, and I'll give you an example. Not every single ad deal is the same, but we actually did just sign on a large paint company. And I would say if you're working with Google or even, advertising.com, which is primarily just a third-party vendor for people to kind of funnel in a little blindly in media buying, they pay a much lower rate to advertise. A lot of people probably aren't familiar with the term CPM, but basically it stands for cost per thousand. So they'd pay something low like 50 cents for every 1,000 times that the ad appeared, where let's say like a Sherwin-Williams will come to us, and we've done a lot of work within ComScore that Prem had mentioned, and just kind of explaining the sites within our network that we're a different beast in a good way. And if I was talking to Sherwin-Williams, one of the things that I would say to them, which is true, is, when people are looking for a home and they Google it, or they even go to Realtor or even Yahoo Real Estate, more times than not, we as the advertiser would call them a tire kicker, because they're not attached to a broker. They're probably definitely not with an agent yet. They're just either kind of being nosy, looking around the area, seeing what their friends or neighbors' houses are worth on Zillow, or just simply getting a feel of what the market is to see what they could potentially afford. And what you bring to the table, and why I'm so happy to be talking to more of a local group like yourselves, is that the way in which I present you out there to a Home Depot or even a Sherwin-Williams is, you know, a lot of these websites, I'll give an example, like Home Seekers. I lived in Southern California for a very long time, never heard of Home Seekers. That's because I wasn't attached to an agent yet. I was absolutely being a looky-loo on Yahoo Real Estate, for example, because I wasn't ready to buy. But my realtor, they're the ones that knew that Home Seekers was the public-facing MLS and brought me to their website. So the way in which we present, you know, you to these national buyers is that you bring to the table very serious buyers in the industry, and that's how we're able to garner such higher CPMs of you know, $8, $10, and $12, for example.
Awesome. So at this point, we're going to go to the Q&A. As you'll notice, there's in the GoToWebinar control panel, is a questions dialog box. So if you enter your questions there, we will have them answered. Let's just, the first question here, I'll just try to let Eric take a swing at this. Eric, approximately how many videos do people participating in the network have access to?
Well, we're constantly building the playlist, but to give you an order of magnitude, in our full archive, we have over 600 hours of video content that we're carving up into manageable 2 to 4 minute segments. So we have already existing hundreds and hundreds of videos that we can share and target to the needs of the audience that April was describing before. But we're in the television production business. We spend millions of dollars every year in creating new content. So while the content in our archive is relatively evergreen on these subjects, we're also adding to it each year with our 2 shows where we're producing 26 new episodes for each show each year.
Wow, that's incredible. How do we know? Like, maybe this is a question for April, but April, how does a broker select the content for their site? Do you guys select it, or do they select it? Is there a library? How does it work?
Yeah, so we've got categories that you could select from, absolutely. The example that I had given that was kind of my favorite customization where it opened up the video channel, you know, if they say to me, hey, April, can I just have, you know, moving and remodeling and how to prep your home, that's all we want, absolutely, that can be customized for you.
So I can just go into the library and use a tag like moving or remodeling or whatever, and maybe Victorian, and get all of the video content that's applicable to that?
I would say let me kind of do that back end tweaking for you, but I could give you a list of the categories. You can select those categories and then in what order you want them to be displayed on the page, and we will absolutely do all of that for you.
Excellent. The next question is can I display this content on my Facebook page? And this is it. So I'll answer this. I think you can display it on your Facebook page, but I recommend that you take the video, you build some content around it, like describe the video and put that page on your website, and then when you share that page to Facebook or Twitter or any other of your social media stuff, you can highlight the video in it, that when people click to view it, they'll actually be able to view that on your site. So you get the click-through traffic and get all of the associated benefits of that. Are there other ways that you see people using social media that are helpful? April or Prem or anybody?
Yeah, I'll take a swing at it. This is Prem. So in the what I mentioned earlier about the integration of this old house content experience onto our platform, one of the things we also do is we build blogs for realtors and brokers, and we auto post content. And exactly what you said, Victor, is that what we see a lot of our customers doing is sort of doing a lead-in, remark or prefacing the content, or kind of giving their interpretation of the applicability of what they just watched or read on their blog to to their local marketplace. And that's where I think, one of the hardest things, and I'm guilty of this as well, in addition to anyone else, is when you're asked to sit down and write something from scratch, it's much harder to do than if you had somebody give you an idea or maybe give you a little blurb and then you can sort of expand upon it. And that's where we see a lot of our customers, kind of embellishing on the content, the teaser, if you will, provided by This Old House.
Awesome. Is there a website that has the embeds live on it? Can you shoot us a URL for that, April, or look one up?
Yep, I do. Yep, I'll go up
live.
And
there's another question about, can the video be utilized without ads on the pre-roll?
Yes, it can be.
Okay, awesome. And what are the length of the videos? I think Eric already answered this, but let's just be clear on that. April?
What are the lengths on the videos?
What is the typical video length?
Oh, length. So going back,
2 minutes,
it's going to be
4 minutes.
behavioral based. Well, it's going to be behavioral based, really. So if I show behavior of watching a 4-minute video and I'm engaged in it the whole time, and I click on one that's 12 and I close out that video, they will dynamically update. So we try and be very consistent with the user's behavior and not give them, if I'm sitting here watching 3 2-minute videos and you show me a 10-minute video, the likelihood of me having the attention span for it is less. So we try and make it user specific.
Gotcha. So the next question is, I guess maybe for Prim, but given that that brokers don't need to pay to leverage this content, what does the contract look like? How long is it? What's the term? What are other terms involved?
Well, This Old House clearly would prefer a long-term contract, but we also know and appreciate, having done this for a long time, that flexibility is key. So I would say that Eric and April can be flexible with respect to term, but it can be as simple as month to month.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it appears to me that the whole idea here is to draw a number of people into a program that's symbiotic. So This Old House will enjoy the benefit of the traffic on a broker website. The broker website will enjoy the benefit of having great content for consumers, but collaboratively, the partnership allows you guys to go out and talk to larger sponsors of this media to really invest more as they see benefits from it as advertisers, right? So it's kind of a three-way triangle there. So I guess as you have large sites on long-term contracts, that's got to be a benefit in winning additional advertising, right?
Yeah, certainly the advertisers want to know that, the planning cycles for marketers or advertisers is typically multi-month. And so to know that, the size of the audience that we're out there promoting to the marketers will be in place, if not growing, is very important to the sales cycle with respect to the marketers that they're having conversations with.
Great. April, do you have any engagement data on people that are viewing the content in any of the websites where it's available now? And were you able to find a URL of one?
Yeah, I do. I don't have anything documented, but it's something I can send out after this. But I just had a call about that first thing this morning. And because of the way that we dynamically alter the length of the video, we're finding a much higher success rate as we do that. So instead of someone coming in and watching maybe one video or a half of a video, they're watching 3 to 4, which I think is fantastic. Whether you choose to have pre-roll or not is completely at your discretion. There's no pressure from us at all. But if this is something where you're looking for content and revenue, that also bodes well for you, right? Because you'll be paid from that type of increased engagement.
So you guys are just bringing this to market. Is this something that's available now, or what do people have to do to engage with you, to learn more and to get going with it?
Yep. So it is available now, and if you're interested, I would say either pick up the phone and give me a call, or send me an email, and we'll find 20 or 30 minutes to talk. Go over your website. Again, I can go over a couple of live options with you, and to Prem's point, it's you can kind of crawl before you walk if you like, or if a couple of you out there are familiar with Prem and I, what we've kind of done in the past and are ready to go. We're ready on our side and very, very excited to bring this to the industry. It's something that I've had clients in the past really, really want, and couldn't find for free, but definitely couldn't find this type of quality for free. So I'm personally excited to bring it to a lot of clients that I've had for that are part of a decade. So I think that this is going to be very, very good for the clients coming to your website.
Yeah, and from my perspective for the audience, the question I have is, why wouldn't you do it? It provides all the benefit in the world. Mm-hmm. If what I said about content diversification makes sense to you, put your consumer hat on for a second, and you try to discern the difference between real estate search website A from B, aside and apart from pretty colors and logos, there fundamentally are small differences, if any. And this seems to me, by leveraging the brand and the content that This Old House can provide to our industry, why wouldn't you do it?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I was going to say, to talk to a point of credibility, going back to kind of my experience when I didn't know who homeseekers.com was, but I learned through my agent. Obviously, I've formed a relationship with my agent. I trust them. They're going to work with me to buy my home. But to go to a brand like Home Seekers, have the trust of my agent, but then to see the This Old House brand, it just gives me a little bit more peace of mind that that they're larger and that they've got these strategic partnerships, and it builds my confidence in them.
Can people use if a broker is part of this network, can they use the This Old House brand in their other marketing material? Do they get a license to use the brand and kind of talk about the partnership?
Yeah, using
Eric,
the brand
or
in
Prem,
conjunction with
whoever.
the partnership.
Yeah, awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So we're at the top of the hour, so I want to thank everyone for coming. Eric, especially you. It's great to have someone from Hollywood on our webinars talking about geeky real estate technology stuff. But as you can tell, we're all very passionate about providing the best consumer experience possible when they're on an agent or broker website. And you certainly lend a lot of advantages to those people that partner with you. So I really appreciate you coming and supporting the webinar today. Prem, thank you very much. April, it looks like you're going to have a busy day because a lot of people are engaged. So excellent, and thank you again. So we will provide a recording of this webinar to everybody, and along with today's PowerPoint presentation. And thank you very much for coming. And we look forward to seeing you again on a future webinar. So with that, we'll allow the admins to close the webinar, and thank you very much for attending.